What's up everyone, Jon Venus here. I'm joined with Nimai Delgado today, fellow vegan bodybuilder, and today we're gonna talk about how to become a vegan bodybuilder. So this is a guide to become a vegan bodybuilder. So whether you're on a traditional American diet, or if you're a vegetarian who still consumes dairy and eggs, or a vegan who's looking into getting fit and going into the gym and building muscle, this should cover everything. So the first thing we're gonna talk about is transitioning. So a lot of people struggle with this phase because it's very, you're jumping into a whole new diet that you have never done before. And I was really nervous about this, and it's not as hard as you may think. The first thing that you have to do is do your research. Go online and see what foods are actually vegan and what's not. A lot of people make mistakes. I made mistakes in the beginning and chose a lot of stuff with eggs and dairy inside without even knowing. And then look for the stuff that you would actually enjoy as a meat eater that is actually vegan, because nowadays there's so many products that have been veganized. There's mock chicken, mock beef, fish even. There's loads of animal product imitations on the vegan market nowadays to make the transition a lot easier. And same with cheese. There's some amazing cheeses out there. Like fast food restaurants have crispy chicken burgers, they have buffalo wings, they have anything these days. So
yeah, now even days there's even full-blown restaurants that are strictly dedicated to making unhealthy traditional American vegan foods, like the cheeseburgers, the pizzas, the quesadillas, everything you name it. But I think probably one of the most important things from somebody that's going from a traditional diet to a full-blown vegan diet is to do it in maybe steps to make it easier for yourself, because I know how difficult it can be to go from eating loads of meat every day to eating nothing but plant-based foods, because that seems like a very limiting option what you're creating for yourself. So I think the best way would be to choose the most unhealthy part of your diet that you're already consuming on a daily basis. So your red meats typically have the most links to certain types of diseases such as heart disease. Maybe cut out that first, and then see what foods you have available that you can kind of go to. Or the next thing would be to cut out maybe the white meats, your chicken, your turkey. I mean, those types of meats. Eventually cut those out. Maybe if you're left with only fish and dairy, start slowly, just maybe week by week, cutting another product out of your diet, so you become aware of what's available to you at different restaurants, at the grocery store, and learning how to veganize those foods by incorporating either the mock meats or just eliminating the meats altogether. So the options are available. You just have to learn what works best for you and what's best suited to make you succeed and to stick with being a vegan, as opposed to trying it out for a week, getting frustrated, getting flustered, and giving up, which I've seen happen so many times. Yeah,
so many times. And yeah, exactly. No one's telling you that you have to do it 100% right away, Do it the way it works best for you.
Jon transitioned from the traditional diet, and then I was actually raised vegetarian since birth, so I never had to deal with the temptation or the elimination of the meat products in my diet. But it was still a bit of a transition to go from dairy products to no dairy products whatsoever, which
that is the most difficult thing to drop for a lot of people. Dairy.
Exactly. That was probably the most difficult thing for me to give up. But nowadays, like Jon mentioned, there's tons of different brands out there that have vegan-friendly cheeses that are made of cashew nut or whatever else. They're so creative nowadays, and they taste absolutely delicious, if not better than the real thing. Set yourself up in a way that you're going to stick to this, or you're going to be okay or happy with sticking to it. Because let's face it, if you're not happy doing this, you're going to question it on a daily basis. If somebody invites you to lunch and you're like, yeah, you know what, I can't go just because I'm vegan, or I'm trying this vegan thing, you're going to give up, and your peers are going to kind of make their comments, and eventually it's going to get to you. I've seen it happen plenty of times before. But if whatever your reason is for going vegan or wanting to try this transition, keep in mind all the added benefits that you're going to be doing for yourself, the environment, the world, the universe, everything all together. It adds up.
Now, there are some people who are already vegan that have never been to the gym or haven't really eaten in a way that promotes muscle growth. If, for example, you're a fruitarian or you eat a lot of fruits and smoothies and maybe just one warm meal a day, the thing is that you have to look for is sources of protein. Which foods in the plant world have the highest amount of proteins, which foods are going to benefit you the most in terms of muscle recovery, which complex carbohydrates. So here we're specifically talking about bodybuilding, and when you're doing bodybuilding, you're typically in, well, 3 different phases. One is bulking, one is cutting, and one is maintaining, which, to be honest, not many people are at. No one's maintaining. So typically when you're bodybuilding, the foods you eat and the macros and calories are slightly different from the regular person. So the protein typically goes a little bit higher, the fat typically goes a little bit lower. So we're gonna share some foods that we eat for bulking first. That means putting on size. A lot of lentils, beans, tofu, rice, oatmeal, smoothies. I do eat fruits, but not too much. I eat a lot of bananas and I put them in the smoothies. Loads of berries. Typically when you're doing a vegan diet and bulking, oftentimes, as long as you don't go overboard on your fats, you'll be able to stay pretty lean on your bulking phase. And that's one of the benefits, I think.
So yeah, when it comes to foods, I typically am a lot looser with the amount of carbohydrates specifically that I get. Now there's two main different forms of carbohydrates. You can call them complex or simple, and that mainly refers to where they fall on the glycemic index. So the complex carbohydrates tend to absorb a little bit more slowly over a period of time, where the higher glycemic carbs, like the fruits, tend to be absorbed by your body and used more quickly. Those types of foods are more beneficial to take at two different times. One, in the morning when you're waking up. I tend to have like a bowl of oatmeal, maybe a cup of oatmeal with some added fruit, maybe some flaxseed, maybe even put like a half scoop of protein in there to give it a little bit of flavor. That's like my #1 favorite meal right now for bulking.
Exactly the same for me.
Okay, yeah, so I'm not the only one. When it comes to like a post-bulking meal, I'll make sure I get in my added carbs. So I'll even throw in a dry scoop of oatmeal into my shake. Depending on how quickly I want to put on size, it depends on how much carbs I'll put in there. I'll definitely add fruit, because with the higher glycemic index, there's a certain window after you work out that your body will absorb the energy and turn it into glycogen and refill your muscles a little bit quicker. So you try to take advantage of those windows. Fruit is a great source for that, and I talk to a lot of other bodybuilders, and they tend to avoid fruit because they think it's filled with sugar and it's going to be detrimental to their diet.
So we're going to give you 3 meals that we typically eat during our bulking phase. So in the mornings, I typically go for a big bowl of oatmeal, throw in a scoop or half a scoop of protein in there, and some mixed berries and a little bit of banana, because that makes everything taste better.
So for me, one of my favorite bulking meals is just a Mexican bowl. So with that, I'll include maybe a cup or 2 cups of brown rice, maybe half a cup of black beans. I'll add some salsa to it. I'll add maybe grilled vegetables. I really am a fan of green peppers and red peppers, so I'll grill them or saute them and then add them to my bowl. And then most importantly, my favorite fruit of all time, the avocado. So I'll tend to always put avocado in there. It's loaded with healthy fats. It's a great filling meal that I feel very satisfied afterwards, and it tastes absolutely delicious. I suggest you try it.
So one of my favorite meals while bulking as well is like avocado toast with tofu as well, which is like a combination that I've used quite a bit. So I don't really consume too much bread while cutting, but while bulking I'll increase the bread intake quite a bit. So I just toast a couple of pieces of toast and I'll take them out, get 1 avocado, so I use up the whole avocado, spread them on the bread, fry the tofu in just water or a little bit of olive oil. If you're bulking, it's fine. You can season your tofu however you want. I really enjoy seasoning it with just spraying some tahini and frying it on both sides, some salt and pepper, a little bit of Tabasco as well, and then I put that on top of the avocado toast and add some more salt and pepper.
All right, so like John said, you typically are in more or less 2 phases when you're bodybuilding. You're either bulking or you're cutting. You're never happy. So you're either doing one or the other. When it comes to cutting, there's a lot more things to consider, because you're actually restricting the amount of calories that you're taking in, and you're probably increasing the amount of activities that you're doing. You can do this a couple of different ways. You can do a little bit more cardio. You can increase the intensity inside of the gym. You have to be more aware of the amount of energy that you're expending, because you don't want to lose weight too quickly and start burning muscle, and you just want to maintain as much muscle mass as possible and reduce the amount of body fat that you have. So macros, what should they be on a vegan bodybuilding diet whenever you're cutting? I think it's very dependent on your current condition. That's probably one of the most overlooked aspects of macros when you first start laying out your macros and what they should be, is because somebody who is drastically holding on to a lot of body fat compared to someone who's holding on to a little bit of body fat will affect the amount of macros or the macro ratio that you're creating for yourself or you're looking up online. What I tend to do is typically I want to maintain about a 500 calorie deficit. I want to burn as much fat as possible and maintain as much muscle as possible. So you want to be careful not to reduce the amount of protein you're intaking, because with a lack of protein in your diet, then you're more likely to start converting muscle into energy, which is what you want to avoid at all costs. I typically get about 1 gram to maybe to 1.5 grams, somewhere in that range, of protein per pound of body weight. Right now I'm currently at 180. I'll get about 200 grams of protein per day, and that's just so I'm creating a surplus of protein in my diet, surplus of amino acids in my diet, so my muscles won't break down while I'm in this deficit. So the next thing would be your carbohydrates. This is a very controversial topic, I guess you could say, because one person will tend to try to cut out all carbohydrates altogether whenever they're cutting, because they've heard that carbohydrates are bad. If you eat too many of them, you'll get fat and you'll do the complete opposite of what you're trying to do. Yeah. So for me, I don't live by that way. I like my carbohydrates, and I like to use them consciously in regards to my training. So there are certain ways you can use your carbohydrates as fuel and use them preferentially at certain times of the day. So I tend to load most of my carbohydrates within 3 hours of working out and within about 2 or 3 hours after working out. So that's when I load up my carbs, because I want to use them at the correct amount of time. So I want to be fueled for my workouts, and I want to make sure that my muscles are being replenished after my workouts. 250 grams is normally my range whenever I'm cutting, and that'll fluctuate on a daily basis. So say if I do legs, I'll need a little bit more energy for that leg workout, so I'll up my carbs that day.
In terms of fat, I think fat is the key thing to look out for here. So, you know, protein and carbs you can play around quite a bit with. In my personal experience, I think that you should never really increase your fats too much on a cut unless you're decreasing your carbohydrates a lot. And in terms of sustaining your cut and preserving muscle mass, I would not recommend lowering the carbs too much, which just obviously means that you have to lower your fats instead. So, you know, in my opinion, I never really go above 20% of your calories of fat. You know, I tend to go either on a 60-20-20 split, so 60% carbs, 20% protein, 20% fats, and at the very final stages I'll maybe do 50% carbohydrates, 30% protein and 20% fats. This doesn't mean that you can never eat anything you know, that has fat in it. You can still eat avocados, small amounts of peanut butter or whatever, just you can't exaggerate like you would on a bulking phase. Now let's talk about supplementation. A lot of people believe that when you go vegan or plant-based, you need to supplement with this, you need to supplement with that. If not, you'll go deficient and you'll die. That's not really the case. Now, since we're talking about bodybuilding, we're gonna focus on protein powders right now. So, do you take any protein powders?
Yes, I do, and that's strictly more or less for the availability and the ease of transporting. So protein powder is an excellent way to add in an additional amount of protein to your diet. In reality, it's not very realistic to carry around the amount of food that it would require you to eat to get the same amount of protein that you would consume in a protein powder. So you're not going to carry around bags of vegetables with you to work, because it's unrealistic, it's inconvenient. So a simple solution to that would be to add just a scoop of protein or a shake or a smoothie to your diet, and you know, you kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You get a meal, and it's a very high protein meal.
I personally also use protein powders because of its convenience, and to be honest, every bodybuilder that, you know, eats a ton of meat also supplements with protein. But it's definitely possible to do it without it, but it just requires a lot more planning, and you know, a lot of us are very, very busy and you know, don't have the time to do all that prepping. So a protein powder can fix a lot of problems.
Protein powders are meant to be a supplement. That means they're not meant to be a dependency. So it's good to supplement your diet, just to add in a little bit more protein, but it's never a good idea to solely rely on protein powders for your protein sources.
Okay, so we covered protein, which is also one of the biggest concerns of people when transitioning into a vegan diet. Now let's talk about iron. A lot of people think that you can't get iron from a vegan diet, but that is very far from the truth. If you look at the list of foods that are high in iron, or list of vegetables and grains and legumes, it's huge. You can't even go through them. I mean, even when you compare you know, dried apricots to beef, per 100 grams of non-heme iron, the dried apricot actually contains 3.5 milligrams compared to the beef that is only 2.6 milligrams.
Now, meat contains a certain type of iron called heme iron, and your body will actually absorb this iron whether or not you need it. So if you consume an excess amount of meat, the iron your body is taking in will actually be absorbed and can actually further create health complications such as hemochromatosis or even liver damage or organ damage. As opposed to plant-based sources of iron, like Jon mentioned, you have apricots, you have nuts, you have spinach, you have
tofu, lentils,
iron,
beans.
all these different forms of iron that are plant-based. Your body will only absorb it if it needs it, so you actually dispel the iron that you don't need.
So let's talk about vitamin B12 and vitamin D, which is of concern. Now, it's not a big problem. Doctors actually recommend meat eaters as well as vegans to take vitamin B12 just in case, due to the fact that the soil in the modern world is just lacking in B12. Previously, you could easily get it from, you know, water streams and vegetables and that kind of stuff, but it's not the case anymore. So just in case, supplement with it once in a while. Now, if you live in a sunny area like this, vitamin D will not be a problem. So yeah, move to a place with sun, or you can also, you know, supplement with vitamin D. You know, you don't need much of it. You don't need as much as people tell you. So just take like 1 tablet once in a while. You should be fine.
Another supplement that most people or most bodybuilders typically take is amino acids. Now, they do have vegan forms of amino acids, or you can strictly rely on getting your amino acids from your whole foods. Now, typically there's a lot of discussion out there on the internet that you cannot get a complete amino acid profile from a plant-based diet, which has since been disproven in multiple different studies. And you don't necessarily have to worry about pairing up different types of foods to get a complete amino profile, because let's face it, nobody wants to sit there and take the time to calculate, okay, this rice has this amount of aminos in it and these beans have this amount of aminos in it, and I'm going to combine the two, and then it's a facto I'll have a complete amino acid profile.
Yeah, that would take the entire day, you know.
So what I recommend is to just get a large variety of plant-based foods in your diet, which you naturally will if you switch to a vegan diet. You don't ever have to worry about not getting enough amino acids in your diet.
Yeah, your body is extremely efficient. I mean, you're breathing without thinking about it. Your body does a lot of things. It's way more complex than you probably realize. And you know, pairing amino acids, that's just something the body does efficiently and automatically, so you don't have to try to overthink everything. You don't have to worry about this stuff. Your body will do the work for you.
If you happen to get blood work done, and once your doctor tells you that you are lacking, just supplement them in a vegan form. They have vegan capsules out there, they have vegan amino acids, creatine's vegan, yeah, you name it, they have it. So if you feel like you're not getting it, just supplement it.
And if you're wondering what foods are actually high in protein, my go-to protein sources are things like tofu, seitan, tempeh, lentils, beans, edamame, even nuts and seeds, and even, you know, things like spinach or dark leafy greens and mushrooms are high in protein.
It's just important to realize how much is required per source. So obviously you're going to need a larger volume of leafy greens to get the same amount of protein that you would get from beans. So as long as you keep that in mind, which is actually very beneficial, because you can eat a lot more this way and you don't have to go hungry, and you become a lot more satisfied, and you're still getting all the protein requirements that you need. It's very easy to acquire if you have a variety of these protein sources like Jon mentioned. You have the lentils, the tofu, the soybeans, the tempeh.
What do you mean soybeans, man? You want to get, you know, man boobs? Yeah, stay away from soy. It gives you bitch tits. No, I'm just kidding, guys. This is one of the myths that everyone throws out there. I get emails every single day without exception. Soy is actually a plant, and when you compare the hormones in soy to the hormones in, you know, let's say chicken or dairy, the chicken and dairy will always have way more estrogen than the soy products, and the estrogen in animals is going to be automatically really similar to your own estrogen in your own body. So the plant estrogen or the phytoestrogens in soy will not affect your body the way the animal estrogens do. So you really don't have to worry about that.
Just look at the facts. Don't base your opinion off of what people tell you or what you hear in the gym, that, oh, I heard soy's bad for you, so you automatically kind of get this negative connotation with soy. It's one of the best pound for pound sources of protein in the vegetable world. So of course we're going to eat soy. As long as it's not genetically modified soy, it's perfectly safe to eat, and we consume it in high volumes, and it's a great source of protein that helps pack on muscle and maintain muscle. So
we've covered the most important things about you know, vegan bodybuilding and how to start transitioning and becoming a vegan bodybuilder. Now it's important, like we said in the beginning, do it at your own pace. do it how it suits you best, the way that you'll be able to sustain it the most. You don't have to feel pressure from, you know, someone telling you that you have to go full vegan right away. Just take it slowly, experiment, and have fun is the most important thing. You know, don't eat the same meals over and over again.
Set yourself up for success. That means creating a support system around you. You know, tell your family and friends that you're trying this new diet for whatever reason. Well, we won't talk about reasons, but you're trying this new diet and you really want to stick to it. You know, you need all the support you can get. Just do your research and know all the benefits of a vegan diet and a plant-based diet. Learn your facts, because you're going to get approached by a lot of different people that are going to kind of attack you and say, oh, you're doing this all wrong, you're creating an unhealthy environment for your health, you're never going to be able to build muscle, you're never going to be able to compete at a professional level. You know, we've both heard these things before, and we just stuck to our guns. We did what we felt was right, and we did our research, and that's probably one of the reasons why you're watching this video. Is there is plenty of available information on the internet. There's plenty available sources of information that are probably much better than us as far as a scientific point of view that can lay out exactly what you need to learn when you transition into a vegan diet. Just know that it's very possible, and becoming a bodybuilder on this diet is even more possible. You'll feel healthy, you'll feel great. Yeah,
by no means is it you know, inferior to omnivore diet when it comes to building muscle. No, by no means at all.
You're simply changing the sources of vitamins, minerals, proteins, carbs, fats that you're getting from animal products to plant-based products.
See where it takes you. You know, it doesn't have to be a long-term commitment. Just play around with it. But yeah, this is it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to share this video with your friends. Leave a like and a comment. And make sure to subscribe to Nimai Delgado's channel. Link will be in the description box below. And as always, I'll see you very soon.
See you guys.
Peace out.